violin prodigy Damien Escobar's inspirational journey from homelessness to center stage. Later on Home and Family, concert violinist Damien Escobar and why his 5-year-old daughter is the secret to his success.
Welcome back, everyone. Our next guest's talents as a violinist made him a millionaire by the age of 21, but by 22, he had lost it all and was living on the streets. Now he is back in a big way, selling out stadiums, and those shows are an experience like none other. Please have a listen to the incomparable Damien Escobar.
Everybody up off their seats, everybody dancing along. I mean, it's an amazing thing to listen to and to see.
You
Welcome, Damien Escobar. Yeah. You really are something else. I mean, you were clearly born with a gift, but you were also classically trained at the best performing arts school in the country at a really young age. And when I say really, I mean like really young age.
I was young. Yeah, I was about 9 years old when I first went to Juilliard.
That's wild. Yeah. What was that experience like for you?
I don't remember much about it because I was so young. The only thing I do remember is that the older kids hated me. That's all I can remember. But it was, look, I mean, it was a privilege. You know, it was a blessing to go to that a university like that and to get my start.
I mean, you're not kidding. And then when you weren't in school, you and your siblings found a way to make some extra money performing concerts.
Yeah, on the subways. So on the subways, coming back from Juilliard one day, I was on a train. I took my violin out and I played the national anthem. Right? And then next thing I know, people start coming up to us, giving me money. I'm like, Ma, take me here every week, and I want to do this.
Oh, my God.
And it just became the thing I did for about 10 years.
You really have had, your story is a remarkable roller coaster ride of highs and lows. And going back a little bit now, one of your earlier challenges is back in school.
Right.
You actually put down the violin, and you ended up joining a gang. How did that come about? And then what was it that made you pick up the violin once again?
You know, looking back at it, being a gangbanging violinist is really weird.
I mean,
it's something you hear every day.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. I grew up in a neighborhood in New York City. Yeah. And I was like a flower grown out of concrete. I was extremely different. There was a lot of kids. I looked like the other kids, but no one else really played the violin. And growing up in a household in a single-parent home, you know, not having a male role model to look to for direction, you know, at a certain point in your life, you just want to do what other kids do that look like you. And I made the choice to join a gang, and it was the worst choice in my life. But in that moment, you know, everything happens for a reason. It ended up being a great choice in my life. Got into some trouble, and I found my way back. You know, having that strong foundation at home got me back. So it was
beautiful.
So was it your mom and your aunt?
Oh yeah, they didn't play with me.
They were like,
they were like, come on.
You better pick up that violin.
Oh, I'm so happy they did. I'm so happy they did.
And then by the age of 20, so here you were only 20 at this point. You had already been on America's Got Talent.
Right.
You were on The Tonight Show.
Yep.
You and your brother. You played for both George W. Bush and Barack Obama. And then there was this, you know, probably one of my favorite musicians in the entire world ever in history, asked you to give him your bow at the end of your performance.
That
Tell us
blew my
about
mind. So Stevie Wonder, I performed at his annual Christmas charity concert. And, you know, as I'm getting off stage, first off, I'm shaking like a leaf because Stevie is like right here. As I'm getting off stage, you know, his assistant came up and said, Stevie wants your bow. And I'm like, what'd I do wrong? What'd I do wrong? And she's like, no, Stevie wants your bow. You know, and he brought Stevie over. I'm like, Mr. Wonder. He said, I want your bow. You're the greatest violinist I've ever heard. And at that point, I said, I quit. my life was complete at that moment. I'm like, there's nothing else for me to do.
Right.
No, but it was a great moment. That was a great feeling because I love him. I love him so much.
And, you know, we talked a little bit about the highs and lows, obviously talking about some highs there, incredible ones. But then everything changed after that.
Yeah.
You actually ended up homeless.
Yeah,
Tell us the
better.
series of events that led you. No, but I mean, it's really,
like you couldn't write
there's so much to learn from your story, which is why we want to kind of go through it and understand it.
And I can appreciate that. So in about 2012, when the group disbanded, you know, we were super successful. Made my first $1 million right after America's Got Talent, right? And I lost it, like we opened up with by 22. And the thing is that in communities that I live in, a lot of communities around the country, there's no financial literacy taught. And we don't come from money, you know? So it's understanding money was something that I didn't understand it. And like a lot of artists and a lot of athletes, you just blow it, you know? And when the group disbanded, I didn't realize that, hey, in a matter of 6 months, I'll be absolutely poor. And
not just poor, homeless.
100%. And the thing about being homeless, right? Because I don't like saying the idea of being homeless, because some people, they're homeless without a choice, right? Me being homeless, it was a choice, you know? And I say that because I lost where I lived, I lost everything, you know, but I had a choice. I could have went back home, but I decided to sleep on a train for 5 months, not because I didn't have a home to go to, but because of shame, but because of not wanting to deal with myself in the mirror and accepting where I was in my life. I didn't want to tell people that I loved that I fell off. I didn't want to face that. People depended on me. You know, and when I finally did find the courage to go back home, my mom looked at me and she said, "Are you crazy? You know, why? Why did you do that?" Right. And my journey of rediscovery started from that point.
And one of the things that helped you on your journey of rediscovery was your daughter, Cadence.
She did, man.
5 years old, and in a way, really helped kind of springboard you back on track.
So she did, and I remember when I moved back in with my mom, I was actually really, really depressed at that point. I stopped playing violin, and my daughter walked by me one day, and you know, I was doing nothing with my life, and she looks at me and she says, "So Dad, what are we gonna do now?" Oh. And that's I melted. Yeah. And I mean, parents know, kids will tell you.
I know.
They'll tell you. And I looked at her, and in that moment, I didn't have the answer for my daughter. I didn't know how to answer that question for her. And I knew I had to do something. I didn't want to play violin anymore. So I went back and I went to school and I got my license to sell real estate.
Which is great, by the way.
It was great.
Very lucrative.
Very lucrative. It was a very short-lived career of mine. I did it for about 4 months. And I remember sitting on the subways going back home, and I had to sit with myself, and I had to think, do I want to be a guy that used to be? You know, do I want to be known as a guy that let fear prevent him from living out his passion? Right. And I went home that day, I remember, and I picked my violin back up, and I fell back in love.
I'll tell you what, God and the universe had a much different plan for you, and it was not selling someone's house, my friend. Damien, you're amazing. You've come here, you've brought your violin, you brought your bow.
Yeah.
I want it after you play, by the way. I'm not Stevie Wonder, but I want that bow. So you can't have that here and not play for us.
I'd be honored.
Oh, we would be honored. But before you do that, I want to tell everyone at home that your Elements of Love tour starts at the end of April. And for ticket information, they can visit DameEsco.com.
And coming up next, Debbie has some new ideas for our family room, and we're going to find out if we can make them happen while still meeting our renovation deadline. Okay, it's time. Damien, take it away.
Thank you, guys.